My, 22 female, and sisters, 20 female, P. Parents divorced when I was 7 years old. It was expected, their marriage was arranged and they tried making it work but ultimately couldn't. The divorce went smoothly. Since mom was a stay-at-home mom, dad agreed to continue paying for her expenses, and also arranged for me and P to see a therapist once a month, so we could express our emotions in a healthy environment. At 14 years old, my dad married my stepmom. She and her daughter, L, 10 at the time, moved into his house. P hated them from the get-go, behaving like a brat whenever dad wasn't around, and constantly making comments about L's body, race, and background. Stepmother and L were kind to P, hoping she'll eventually come around, but P wasn't interested. I tried to convince her to give them a chance, but gave up eventually. Over the years, P continued harassing stepmother and L, until she got her karma when all the insults she directed at L reflected onto her. Last week at my dad's birthday party, he opened L's gift and got emotional. Inside were adoption papers. The two hugged and L had a speech about my dad being an amazing father figure, to which P scoffed. It was rude, but not unusual behavior on her end, so we ignored her and continued with the celebration. After the party, P and Dad went outside for a smoke while the rest of us went to bed. I couldn't fall asleep, so I went into the kitchen and saw Dad in the living room with a very drunk P hovering over him. It was then that I heard her say how she found it comical that L called him a good father, since he couldn't be one for her. She went off and said that if he was a good man, he would have never divorced our mom, and that thanks to his incompetence, her life was now horrible. She also said that she's informing him that if he agrees to sign the adoption papers for his fake daughter, he could lose his real one. Dad just sat there and cried. Growing up, he tried to be as involved as possible in our life, so P telling him he was horrible broke his heart. I stormed over and asked her what she thought she was doing. I yelled at her to stop blaming our parents' divorce for her being a failure. Her being miserable with life had nothing to do with our parents, and everything to do with her decisions and nasty attitude. I dragged P outside barefoot and told her she's no longer welcomed. She cried and asked to bring her phone, since it was cold outside and she was drunk. I firmly told her no, she can either walk to our mom's house or stay outside for the rest of the night. Now my entire family is arguing. Some support me, saying she had it coming, and some tell me I'm wrong for treating P that way, and to forgive her since she was drunk, jealous over not being my dad's youngest anymore. I'm starting to feel a bit bad. What P did was horrible, but leaving her outside barefoot and drunk in the middle of the night without a cell phone put her in a lot of danger. Am I the a-hole? Edit. I feel like I have to mention this. Our mother's house is 20 to 30 minutes walking distance from where my dad lives. Edit update. 1. Dad left mom his house and moved to a new one 20 minutes away so he could be closer to us, and so we wouldn't be under any stress about moving. He attended every sports game, every dance recital, and was nothing but loving towards us. No one was the favorite child, and we were all treated equally. My dad didn't choose L over P. He wasn't the perfect father, but he sure was one of the good ones. 2. P was rude even before the divorce. I have no way to explain it, but she was just born with it. If anything didn't go her way, she'd automatically resort to violence. She's been in therapy since she was 5 up until now. I've been told she is making some progress, but clearly not enough. 3. This whole incident revealed a lot of stuff P did over the years, and L is finally being brave and speaking up about it. In the past hour, L agreed to let us look through her texts with P. We found messages upon messages of P calling L racial slurs, along with threats and other unpleasant comments about her weight. This has been going on for years. We are absolutely horrified by it, and I'm amazed L didn't snap and never told anyone what was really going on. We are all ashamed we didn't realize what was happening sooner, and are doing the best we can to get L the help she deserves, despite her claiming she doesn't need it. 4. And although I agree what I did last week was wrong, and kicking P out in such a manner was a reckless thing to do, in light of recent events, I wish I did give her back her shoes by throwing them at her head. I'm going with everybody sucks here, except for stepmother and L. You because you put your sister in a dangerous situation. Your dad for not stopping P's behavior when it started. P because she's being a self-centered brat. Having said all of that, I feel awful for your dad and stepmom. I get why you did it, and I'd be tempted too. Just take safety into consideration. Everyone sucks here. I was on the side of saying not the a-hole until you refused to give her her phone or shoes, forcing her to walk barefoot for 20 to 30 minutes. Your parents' divorce clearly had an effect on her, but at some point she started making her own choices. So she's definitely in the wrong, but you treating her the way you did was completely unacceptable. Not the a-hole. P was going way too far, and somebody needed to put her in her place. Probably should have left her with her phone and shoes, but there was a lot going on in the heat of the moment, so not blaming you. Little backstory here. I, 28 female, have a little sister, 14 female, who we'll call Lily. who is extremely afraid of dogs. Her dog phobia happens only with big dogs, after a Rottweiler knocked her to the ground when she was 10. Also, my sister's living with me as my parents have gone abroad, and we both are extremely close. We live in a big house which can easily accommodate 3 people. This happened a week ago. My aunt was going through a messy divorce, so she moved in with me and asked me if she could bring her dog with her. Now, this dog is extremely large and tends to get overexcited with children. And taking into account Lily's fear of dogs, I refused. At first, my aunt took it well and gave the dog to my cousin, her daughter, who lives 3 hours away and says she'll look after it. So, a week ago, my aunt asks me if she can bring the dog for visits outside of our house. I agree, as long as it's in the backyard and the dog is on a leash. I reminded her to not let him inside the house. Lily agreed and said that she has no problem as long as the dog does not come close to her. My aunt brought the dog over and Lily just stayed inside. I played with the dog a bit and then I went to the kitchen to cook dinner. Suddenly, I hear Lily screaming at the top of her lungs, and I go to the living room. She's climbed on top of the sofa, and the dog is at the bottom of it, barking at her. My aunt is telling Lily to come down, and it's just a silly fear, the dog won't hurt you, etc. I was furious. I immediately took the dog outside and screamed at my aunt for what she had just done. I kicked her out, and now she's staying with her daughter. My mom called me yesterday and told me that I had no authority to do that. I told her I did, and that any sane person would do the same thing. My cousins also called me and told me that I did a heartless thing, that my aunt's daughter doesn't have space for my aunt, and that she needs a home. I don't feel like I'm the a-hole. So, am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole 100%. Your aunt knew how your sister reacts to dogs and agreed to not let her dog inside. Then she broke that promise. Also, no, it's not a silly fear, and what the dog? Not the a-hole. She scared the crap out of your sister on purpose, and just as importantly, she willfully lied to you and did not keep her word. Absolutely not. She agreed to conditions with no intention of keeping to them. This person cannot be trusted. Update. My aunt called Lily about a half an hour ago and called her a spoiled brat for getting her kicked out and told her that she, the aunt, wished the dog had hurt Lily. I called my aunt back and it escalated into a heated argument. My mom called me and told me that I needed to apologize to my aunt and welcome her back home, as it is technically her childhood home. And I told her that it was not her home, as my grandparents left me the house when they died. What do you guys think? Should I apologize? Also, I'm planning on taking in Lily as my parents are permanently staying abroad. Update 2. My aunt, we'll call her Diana from now on, was kicked out an hour ago by her daughter after she left the dog loose in the house. The dog destroyed more than a few items. She's apologized and asking if she can live with us because she is essentially homeless. What should I do? Update 3. This is the final update, thankfully. Lily called up our dad, who wasn't aware of any of this by the way, and was crying as she talked to him. He understood, as he had a dog phobia as a child too, and chastised my mom and Diana, and further followed up by calling up all the family members and cutting off Diana. She's a fully grown adult with a steady income and therefore could afford a hotel room. Apparently, she had enough money to buy an apartment at short notice, buy, not rent, and eat well for a year without any income. So she's bought her own apartment. Allows pets, by the way, and she got it fully furnished. Should have just done that in the beginning, and yes, Lily is well now. She says she forgives Diana for what she did. I haven't. Not the a-hole. Cut off that weeotch of an aunt, and any family member who says you are at fault here. Even your dumb boyfriend who called you overreacting. I feel furious reading the story and the update. I'd be livid if anyone does that to my daughter. I can't believe your mom sided with the witch instead of her own daughter. Take custody of your sister and tell the rest of them to screw off. I've been married to my husband for almost 3 years, and we have 2 kids, twins, female and male, 15 months. My husband has 2 older sisters. He is the youngest of the 3. I've always got along with the younger sister-in-law, but not so much with the older. She has always been very judgmental towards me, and we had countless arguments in the past, but a couple of days ago, we got into a big fight. My kids got the flu, and it's been a rough week for both me and my husband. My mother-in-law and father-in-law have come to stay with us for a few days because I got sick too, and I was exhausted, so they offered to help me. My mother and father-in-law had taken our kids for a walk in the evening, as they had for the past couple of days, since they were getting better and sister-in-law happened to be around here, so she joined them with their youngest daughter, 12 years old. She returned soon and came over to our house and began complaining that since both of her parents were out for a walk with our kids, they couldn't take her daughter to her friend's house, and she would have to do it herself. My husband drove our niece to her friend's house eventually. She began blaming me that I was irresponsible and forced her parents to babysit my kids. She insisted that they had no business to take them for a walk and that this was my job. She even accused me of being a bad housewife and pointed out that the house was a mess, that I didn't clean and didn't cook. My husband defended me and said that she shouldn't be judging me about something like this, because she raised 2 kids as well and she knows the struggles. Well, to keep it short, she said many ugly things. But what hurt the most was that my parents were right for kicking me out, and they were probably now living much better without me, and that I didn't deserve to be in her family. I lost it there and told her to shut up. She got upset and pushed me, and my husband had to get in between us and yelled at her. I told her to leave my house and never come back. We talked about this with my husband's younger sister, and she believes that we are both to blame, and that we shouldn't have exchanged such harsh words. She disagreed that it wasn't right to keep her away from us, because no matter what happened between me and her, my husband and my kids are still her family. Now that I heard another person's perspective, I'm thinking that I might have handled the situation poorly. My husband's family is really close together, and after this, my husband doesn't want to talk to his sister. And my mother-in-law and sister-in-law also had a big fight with her when they heard what happened. I feel like this is all my fault. So, am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole in any way. She says her parents have no business taking your kids for a walk, and it's your job. But apparently it's fine for them to take her kids somewhere, and that is somehow not her job. She then throws a tantrum about her parents not being able to help her because they're already helping you. And instead of just doing it herself, ends up getting your husband to do it for her. Then she proceeds to personally insult and criticize you because your house isn't 100% clean, while you're all sick. Not only are you not the a-hole, you're absolutely right to tell her to get out and not come back. And to be honest, I wouldn't be letting her back in until she apologizes. She's a grade A hypocrite who wants other people to do her favors, but also criticize you for accepting favors. Younger sister-in-law can join her if she thinks you're being too hard. My father passed away somewhat recently. He had just bought a brand new truck. When my father died, my mother was taken care of, but barely. Blue-collar boomers. She has income, but barely breaks even. So this truck isn't just a truck. It's an asset she needed to turn into money to live on. Nevertheless, my mother is a saint of a woman. My little cousin, 26, was in need of a new car, but has no income on paper. He's a gig DJ, so can't walk into a dealer or beg, so he asked my mother for a deal. Boy, did she. We give him one. I could have sold the truck to a friend of my father's in cash in full, but my mother's a saint who thought she was helping family. Also, for what it's worth, when I say we, my sister and I didn't benefit from my father's death. There was no inheritance. We don't control my mother's money. We do, however, spend a lot of time helping our mother because she barely has a high school education, never graduated, and she often asks us for help financially. She needs whatever she has to live. She's not rich, so... The truck is worth about $35K, $45K on the high end. $27.5 was the lowest I found, with $100K more miles, and clapped out. This truck had plastic on the seat backs, and the little warning flag sticking out of the glove box. It was that new. It was agreed that he'd pay $350 a month, no interest, against a $27,500 note. He also said, and we agreed, because that's a forever loan, that he'd sell his car and give my mother the proceeds for that. My mother signed everything over, instead of holding the title, because dumb decision. My sister drew up a standard contract just to keep things on the up and up. It's what my sister does for a living. Dude got super offended. Then, weeks later, he says his life is up in the air right now, and was not going to give my mother any proceeds from his car, which she was counting on to pay off some debt she'd accrued because of lack of positive income. It became a thing, and then he sent my sister, not my mother, the money and said, for screwing me. Are we the a-holes for thinking he's being a spoiled, ungrateful brat? Also, I won't get into the fact that his car he sold was worth more than $2,500, but... Not the a-hole. The odds of your mother getting a $350 monthly payment for the next 6.5 years is exactly 0%, with a margin of error of 0%. Hell, I bet he doesn't make it 6 months before he's missing payments. This was a huge mistake. Not the a-hole. Cousin sounds like a selfish jerk, hoping that without you and your sister's involvement he could save a bunch of money by taking advantage of your sweet mom.